We are nearly at the end of October, which makes sense that I would now release my September book of the month, slightly delayed. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Kris, and today's video is my book of the month for September, which is going to be Boudicca's Daughter by Elodie Harper. Now, it is no secret to people who've been around here for a little while, I am an Elodie Harper stan. She is 100% a auto-buy author for me. She's just fantastic. I love the Wolf Den trilogy, and as soon as this one was released in September, I knew I had to pick it up. I did this one on audio, and it was very, very good on audio, and I do plan on buying all of her books physically at some point. I'm hoping for like nice special editions to come in to have on my shelves. But it should shock no one that this book made my September book of the month. Now, what I'll do very briefly before going into the story of Boudicca's Daughter is just give a very quick overview of the historical events and people that are referenced in this story. So for those of you who don't know who Boudicca was, she was a warrior of an ancient Briton tribe called the Iceni. Her husband, Prasudicus, was a client of Rome, and there was a little bit of tension between the two there, as Britain was seen to be an enemy of Rome at the time. When Prasudicus died, he left his wealth to their two daughters and also the Roman Emperor Nero at the time. Britain was then betrayed by Rome, to which Boudicca raised an army and led a revolt against Roman rules, which eventually led to her death. We are not sure, apart from death, what happened to the daughters, which are also unnamed in at least the research that I could find. This book asks the question, what if one of Boudicca's daughters were able to forge her own relationship with Rome after the events? If she could face the current rule and the people that she was fighting against and build a life for herself. So Boudicca's Daughter follows the story of Selena as she forges her relationship with Rome after Britain's failed uprising. She is captured, she is treated as property, she's expected to comply with Roman rule, and Harper does an amazing job of pulling the reader in to feel things like Selena's fear for this, her anger at her heritage being left behind, and her fighting spirit just really shines through these pages, which is by far one of my favorite things about Harper's writing. We also get to see the ways in which Selena quietly rebels against her new surroundings while also learning how to operate within the confines of the situation that she is in. And this is something that I really loved about Harper's previous trilogy as well, called The Wolf Den, is that she's often looking at women who, inside of these stories, are exploring confinement. And they are very quietly testing the boundaries, making sure they never lose themselves truly to the situation that they're in. And I love this element. I loved it in The Wolf Den. I love it here, and it is a theme that is carried across to all of Harper's books. Going back to Selena, she is struggling with identity in a world that wants to bury her very existence. At this point, Rome is trying to conquer all and bury Britain, taking it into their own occupation. She also lets her desire for and curiosity for new experiences drive her forward. Something which is really interesting about the writing of Selena as a character in this book is that she always feels slightly at odds with her surroundings, which I think is done intentionally and is done very well because it totally adds to the atmosphere of what we're experiencing as we read the book. Now, Harper is also fantastic at building a lived-in world, no matter how much you do or do not know about the real-world events. I looked into a brief history of Boudicca because she is a historical figure that I'm very, very interested in, and it seems to be fairly well researched, as in this book seems to be fairly well researched from what I could find and what I discovered in my own sort of digging. Through easy to follow yet poetic and beautiful prose, Harper is able to paint a picture which bleeds off the page and into the reader's imagination. The author gives enough modern elements without letting it take away from the historical feel and accuracies of the novel through the words alone, which is such a skill set that I really appreciate Harper for. She sets this up very early. She sets it up in the preface of the book, letting the reader know that the names of some places have been kept modern to give the reader a better grounding in this historically fictitious world. And it absolutely does just that. So as an example, London is kept in the text, even though at the time the city was not called London. Harper also has a way of drawing the reader in and keeping us on tenterhooks. we need to know what happens next, or I'll speak for myself here. I needed to know what happened next, but it does this without the demand and that breakneck fastneck pace that breakneck speed, fast pace of having to read one more chapter. The pacing in this book is sharp, bar part one. I will say the book is split into 4 parts, I believe. Part one felt a little bit rushed in terms of the events to get us to Selena's story. So that is probably my only gripe with this book. So, since reading it, I ended up giving it a 4-star. Elodie Harper is very good at a short chapter with the ability to use relatively few words to capture imagery and action that had me completely hooked through the story. At the same time, each part, so of the 4 parts, again, don't quote me on that, potentially there was 5, but each part of the story gave a satisfying conclusion to whatever arc we were in, which I think is also not the easiest thing to do. And this book is relatively short. I think the audiobook was somewhere around 9 to 11 hours, so I think I listened to it in about 6 or 7. So quite a short book, which means you need to be good. You need to be good at the words that you're using to make sure you're conveying everything that you want to convey. I personally wish I had more time with Selena. I wanted to see more of her relationship unfolding with an unforgiving Roman Empire at the time. I also trust that Harper knew exactly when to end this book. It ended satisfactorily. I was just selfish and wanted more time in there. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just me wanting more Elodie Harper in my life. I already can't wait for whatever she brings out next. I'm totally hooked on Harper's writing. Like I said, auto by author for me. Have you read it and loved it? Let me know. Have you read it and not loved it? Also let me know. I would be thrilled to talk to anyone about this book, but you can leave those in the comments down below. If you like this content, give it one of those. If you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will, and I will catch you in the next video. Ciao.